radio for a really great future. We're talking real money.
To the sound of the dueling leaf blowers, we present another lovely edition of the Talking Real Money podcast with Don McDonald and Tom Cock, your hosts. On today's episode, we are going to talk about not talking about money. Nobody wants to, we talk about money and yet people don't talk about money. We really don't talk about money. Do you talk much about money? Do you really? Think about it for a minute. Do you sit down and have long conversations about money with people? If you do, it's probably like, well, do you think Tesla stock's going to keep going up? Or did you buy that NVIDIA? Or whatever that was? Did you get that latest hot stock? What's the market going to do? What's the debt ceiling going to do to the market? But you don't talk about money, like real money. And with you, maybe one of the most important places to talk about it, that is one of the least talked places, is with your family, Tom.
It's a fascinating thing. And I will give you my family history on this. Okay? So
yeah, okay.
I grew up in what you'd have to say is an upper middle class family. My father was a physician. My mother did, in today's parlance, did not work outside of the home for most of my life. Some might call
you wealthy. Some with a doctor.
Yeah. Okay,
some.
All right. There you go. So I was waiting for that. This is why we don't talk about money. It's exactly why, because money, right, equals value. People think, well,
Stature.
You're more important because, you on the social ledge. No, it's not the social strata. Strata. Thank you. You're higher up.
If you were on the ledge, then the only place to go is off the ledge. And
that's a good point. You're further up. I mean, if Bill Gates comes into the room, he's the most important guy in the room, right? Maybe. Unless
it's like, the guys from Succession. I mean, that they're like super rich. They might give him a run for the money.
Romulus comes in and takes it right down. So money, is this taboo topic. And this comes again, this topic comes up because Jonathan Clemens has a new book that he edited. And in it, he says, money is the last great taboo. People will tell you about every other aspect of their life, even their sex life, but they will not have an honest conversation with you about their money. They will not tell you what their net worth is. They will not tell you how honestly they won't be honest about how their investments performed. They will not tell you their salary. You should be discussing all this.
I don't talk about my sex life either, but that's for other reasons.
That's
it's very interesting. This whole idea of not talking about money. It is, it's almost like parents, particularly this is particularly a parent-child dynamic. Parents want to keep their children in the dark about the money that they have, and I don't know if that's because they want to make it when they die, some big Christmas surprise, like, hey, kids, look what we left you, instead of kind of explaining along the way. And it seems to me that there are some better ways to handle it than that.
Well, and let me ask you a question. So, again, going back to my upbringing, it just wasn't discussed. If you needed something that required money, well, you either don't need that. It never was, we can't afford that. But let me ask you a question. How did you, because they're all gone now, how did you deal with your children and money? In other words, if somebody said, hey, I really want that, and you knew you didn't want them to have that, or truly it was outside of your budget, what was the message you delivered?
Until recently, Dad's too poor to get you that.
See, now I think that is not a good way. Actually, maybe that is the right way. In other words, to tell people, well, here's the budget. Here's how much we have.
You can't have it. We
don't have the bucks for it. Yeah.
We helped them out where we could, but if they wanted a nice new car, we worked together to get them a used car that they had to be responsible for paying for to some extent, and maybe they got part of it for a birthday gift or something. But we rarely handed things over. And I got to tell you, I love the way my wife's family handled it. Her dad, the colonel, as you know about colonels.
Yes, of course.
He actually did sit down with his three children and discuss what would happen, and I'm talking about the estate end of it, what would happen
the
in their
end.
adulthood, in their adulthood. And he worked out a very, very fair structure because he realized that your kids sometimes need help along the way, like one of mine right now needs some financial help along the way. His deal with the kids to make all of this seem eminently fair was it was fully disclosed. Yeah. One brother needed help with a repair to the house that was $20,000. That brother got the $20,000, but that went in a ledger. Went into a ledger.
We've got the same system in my house
that deducted it from the estate, so that all the kids went and they all knew what the amounts were.
There you go. I think that's very smart. So let me give you a couple of other. I think that's a great idea, but let me give you a couple others to try to do better when it comes to talking about money. And this is the hardest one, maybe at the beginning. You got to be honest with yourself about money, how much you really make, how much you really take in after everybody else gets their piece, how much.
Well, then the vast majority of people are just they're shafted on that one. They don't even know their own lives.
Yeah, no, they don't. Most people really, truly don't. In fact, this is astounding. From this piece, it said 43% of people don't know how much their spouse earns. Now, I bet my wife couldn't tell you. If I asked her how much, she probably wouldn't know. Even though I have sat down many times and said, here's kind of how much money comes in every year. Here's kind of how much we're spending. We're spending too much, but she wouldn't know what. So I don't think my wife, that's, so number one is be honest with yourself. Number two is starting small. In other words, don't just, the idea of what your wife's family has done, which I think is perfect. And I have loaned some members of my family money, and that is growing with interest and will go against anything they might receive. I think that makes sense. But start small when it comes to this. That's why I was asking about what you did with your kids. Because my daughter, for example, is a very sweet person, and she went out to have something to eat yesterday with her friends, and she got there and found out that her card didn't have enough money on it to buy anything. She texted me. I put, and that's how quick this can be. I transferred some money right in there, so she wasn't embarrassed by the fact that she didn't have any money on her card. But I said, this is why you this summer need to work for your mom to make money so that it goes in there, because you're capable of doing that. You're capable of earning it. And now you're learning what things actually cost. So starting small. Here's the other one that never works in my family. Maybe it does in yours. From time to time, tell my wife, maybe this is why the messaging is poor. We need to sit down and talk about money. And what does that sound like? Does that sound good?
It sounds like a scolding's a coming.
It does. It doesn't.
Yeah.
That's probably poor choice on.
Well, Tommy, come on out to the woodshed, son. Come on out.
Ready? Yeah, it sounds like fun. So, and I think I even use the word so we can get on the same page, right? Money meetings are a good idea. It
definitely sounds like a lecture.
Yeah, it's not going to be pleasant. And then, again, back to the, sort of being honest as a couple, being honest as a family, and setting those goals. But those would be better things. And I didn't quite finish the point. We never in my family talked about, when I was growing up, money. It wasn't discussed. And it was the same situation that you mentioned, that really my dad died first. My mom outlived him by 5 years. But towards the end of my mom's life, I was saying maybe we should tell everybody about because I was taking care of her money. She said, no, I don't want anybody to know, I said, well, why not? No, they find that out later. Okay. I think it's kind of strange.
Well, to that end, actually, I have a variation on that theme personally. I have informed all four of my children that just count on there being nothing there when I die. I don't care. Just count on there being nothing. I have it now, but it's for me and Debbie. It's not, if you need it, we'll help. But no, count on nothing, and then be surprised if there's something.
Which is, I think, similar to what my mother used to say, even though she certainly knew there was going to be something at the end. So get out there, be honest with yourself, start small, have meetings, set some goals, and try to overcome.
I want to add one more.
More.
Once you, and this prerequisite is required, it is essential. Once you understand how to really invest and build a portfolio for the long haul. Once you've really gotten it down, you're no longer a day trader or a market timer or a hunch player or a sector transactor or a rotator, a sector rotator, whatever. Once you've gotten over those things and you really do understand how this works, talk to your kids about that.
And
the sooner you can, the sooner the better.
Are your kids all following that? Or do you know?
Tori, yeah. Jake, actually, except for one who really doesn't have anything, they actually are doing pretty well with that.
My kids would be scared to do anything else. Yeah, they'd be scared.
They've listened to me for so many years. It's like, well, but I'm talking about people who aren't on the radio, who aren't doing podcasts. Just sit down with your kids and go, look at this globally diversified portfolio. And let's just talk about, if you do this, what will happen in the future.
Well, no, you got to. The first part is you got to save something. You got to talk to them about setting aside. The minute you make, you've said this before, the minute you make anything, some of it should be set aside for your future. That's it. Got to happen, and you got to start that discipline early.
And and we've talked about this in all kinds of different aspects, but one of the things that I think really works well is when they first get into the workforce, when they generally aren't making much money and saving is hard, living is expensive. At that point, when they first get into the workforce, if you can afford it yourself, instead of having money to give them when you're dead, take a little bit of that, 500, 1,000, if you can afford 5,000, and put it in a Roth IRA for them when they have earned income, so that you help get them in the habit, and then they get a chance to see what it does.
Yeah,
they get a feel for it.
Absolutely, I think that is absolutely spot on. So, great advice there. As I say, get going and overcome this taboo. We got time for a quick question here.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh gosh, yes.
All right. Okay. This comes from Karen in Maynard, Massachusetts. Hi, guys. I'm still listening. I don't know Maynard. I'm still listening. I don't know what. I don't know.
That's good. I mean, she hasn't
enjoying
stopped.
the show. Okay. And have another question. Oh, she must have asked us a question previously. Thank you in advance. If following Paul Merriman's 10-fund ultimate buy and hold, 50% U.S., 50% international portfolio, his recommendation is to put an equal percentage in all 10 funds. That would mean 40% of your equity portfolios in small cap, right? Because you're dividing U.S., you're dividing.
Yes, it would. Sure. Yes, I see that.
You'd be U.S. small value, et cetera.
You'd have a heavy tilt to value, too.
Yeah, I've heard you recommend a small cap tilt to about 20 to 25%. What are your thoughts on the 10 fund with that much in small cap? Thank you.
Go get him, Paul. Why are we plugging Paul Merriman again?
Well, always getting a certain amount off the clock.
Okay, well then that works out. It depends. If you understand the whole concept of volatility and the reality of it, and it will occur, you will lose what appears to be a lot of money at some point with a heavy small. Like right now, small is just getting hammered by large.
Yep.
So you have to be able to live through times like this. But if you can, the past has shown that a tilt towards small in value would have made you an extra % or so a year, and over time, we're really talking real money there. So
and I think the question she has is, are you okay with 40 when you really suggest 20 to 25? And the answer is, yeah, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, everybody's different. We just try to keep it more toward the middle. And Paul does tend to swing for the fences a little bit more in his recommendations.
Yeah.
I don't think he does that in his personal life, but he does in his recommendations. He's very conservative.
Stocks, half in bonds. He is. Yeah, I think he figures he's won the financial game. One more. Time for one more?
Sure.
Elizabeth from Colorado Springs, Colorado, the home of the former Business Radio Network.
And the former home of Don McDonald for many years.
Well, that's the reason the Business Radio Network was there. It's because you were there.
Yeah, of course. It's because of
me. Elizabeth asks, I have $26.6 thousand in an HSA at Fidelity. That's a lot in an HSA. I have no immediate plans to withdraw any funds. I've been stockpiling my receipts. In addition to Medicare, I have TRICARE for life, so I will not need this account very much. That's exactly right. You won't. Right now, my account is split into 4 different Fidelity funds. I'm satisfied with the performance of one of the funds, but not the rest. She doesn't say which one. I bet the one that's been performing better lately, just a guess. Are 4 funds too many for this? Yeah, for sure. Are 4 funds too many for this account? How many funds? Okay, here's the thing. If this account is truly unlikely to be used for any short-term medical needs, I would have it basically probably all in stocks. Why not? And then you're just going to balance between the previously mentioned large, small, U.S. international and U.S. international, large, small value growth. I'll get that right.
Can I just give, since it's $26,000?
Yeah.
Maybe
something easier.
You're at a number where why make it so complicated?
Fair enough.
Keep it simple. Use AVGE.
Oh. Well, it says Fidelity, though. I'm assuming at Fidelity you could still buy the AVGE.
You can buy, of course you can buy an ETF at Fidelity. So just get out of the Fidelity funds, because there's no tax ramification to doing so, and get into AVGE, which is the Avantis All Equity Markets ETF, which is probably less expensive than some of your funds. I don't know what funds you have, but if they're any actively managed, it's definitely less expensive than those. And it has this massively diversified portfolio that's 70 U.S., 30 international, which reflects the market right now, by the way. And they own just a ton of stuff because it's a fund of funds. You've got a large cap, an international, and emerging markets, large cap value, small cap value, international, real estate. All this stuff is in there already, and then you don't have to deal with it. I don't know.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. I got another idea too, by the way.
Okay. Sure.
Get help.
Get help from who?
Well, from us. I just talked to a woman today who's a pretty good investor, uses index funds, been a great saver. But she was really surprised when we analyzed her portfolio and found out that 1%, only 1% was in small cap value, when our portfolio is about 8% in small cap value. Shocked, actually. She's like, I know so little, because most of her money is in target date funds. She has some S&P 500, and then she has U.S. large growth. People don't understand.
It's all growth.
It's the same thing. You're owning it over and over again. So we do a report absolutely free. Talk to one of our advisors. We run it. We give you the report. She's going to make some changes. Sounds like she knows what she's doing, but it was a big help. So we do that absolutely free. We love it.
By the way, how many people signed up for your Saturday?
I don't know yet, because the world being the way the world is, even though it's going to air on Thursday, I haven't heard back. So we'll find out sometime soon.
Well, that's good to know. You can do that really easily too. Doing it is so easy. Oh, and I forgot the best part of all. You know, when you hear these shows, these podcasts and the shows on the radio where they say, oh yeah, come to the office for a free consultation, or call us for a free consultation.
Doors locked
you know what
behind
you're gonna get? Yeah, you're gonna get the Matt Lauer doors. The switch is right under the desk. But instead of the other stuff, you're gonna get sold stuff, hard sold stuff. We will not try to sell you stuff. That's an absolute promise. And so far, all of our advisors have allowed us to keep that promise since like 2010. That's a long time. 9. Okay. Since 2009, even longer. So go to talkingrealmoney.com. That is our website, talkingrealmoney.com. And just look down the page a little bit. It says meet an advisor. You pick the time. You pick the date. And if one of the regular advisors won't do it, Tom will get up in the middle of the night to do it.
Early morning might be better, because I'm not that
he likes
great
early morning
night. But yeah, okay. But
all right.
We'll see. I'm flexible. I'm happy to chat.
Do you have any night owls in the office who'll do the overnight shift?
Oh, yes, of course we do.
Oh, good. All right.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. Go to talkingrealmoney.com. And by the way, keep listening. Thank you so much for doing so. Tell your friends, neighbors, relatives, enemies. I don't care. Just tell people to listen to Talking Real Money on their favorite podcast service. And also call us on Saturdays live at 855-935-TALK, 855-935-8255, because we do a radio show then, and it is conversational. We talk. You talk, we talk together as we are talking real money.
We hope you realize that the information provided on Talking Real Money is for informational, educational, and hopefully enjoyable purposes only. Providing personalized financial planning or investing advice takes time, so please consult with a really good fee-only fiduciary investment, tax, or legal advisor. We know a good one. Investing must always involve risk. In other words, you can and probably will lose money at times. Also, as much as you want it, no one can accurately and consistently predict the future, so past performance doesn't tell you a darn thing about what the future will bring. Unlike many other programs that say something similar, Talking Real Money is not trying to get you to buy or sell any financial products or securities. Instead, the program is provided as a public service by Appella Capital, a fee-only registered investment advisor. Thanks for listening, and please visit TalkingRealMoney.com for more information and disclosures. That should keep the lawyers happy.